son, where did you find this?
Well, hi guys. A bit of a different look here. Some things have changed. Some visuals are different. Some names are different. There's a lot going on. A lot of changes here, and I figured we'd take some time to address why things are different. First, Dive Bar Sportscast is no more. That is, it's gone the way of the dodo. We are officially shutting it down and transitioning to a whole new topic, a whole new range of topics. And I think we want to explain ourselves just a little bit. Don't worry, I've still got a drink in my hand. The dive bar portion of it is not changing, but the topics are. We are moving away from sports. And for a lot of reasons, I think, Connor, I'm going to let you go first here. When you give me your take, we've talked about this once, by the way. Just this is one conversation that we had. Everything else was kind of like, all right, we're was over text. We're going to switch this, but in terms of like the philosophy, we've only talked about it once. So, Connor, give me your thoughts. Why are we changing away from sports?
We were both burnt out, It was just that's part of this. Is at the end of the day, like making a podcast in a hyper, popular media right now. Like we're doing it to have fun at the end of the day, and it gets hard when you're trying to set aside a small part of time for two, like professionals who are trying to make their way in the world, and we just weren't having fun. We were both burnt out. It started to be like it was us doing homework, trying to make fun topics, but it just turned into like research and how do we actually end up making this like this good piece of media that we could be proud of, and it just wasn't there anymore. I mean, sports are fun, sports are great. You and I are always going to probably talk about sports. We'll probably bring up sports from time to time in this new podcast we're going forward with. But at the end of the day, that's why we started becoming more sporadic, and these episodes became less and less frequent. And I'm sure people who were actually keeping up with us, the few of you that have, we really appreciate you. You guys are awesome. But I'm sure you could tell that we were starting to, kind of ramble and lose our way, just because we both were. We just weren't happy with kind of the landscape of sports and the kind of product that we were trying to put out. We're not journalists, so
you're absolutely right. That's the thing is like, I mean, when I think about like what we were trying to put out to the world, like we weren't just trying to start a podcast to start a podcast. I think that's important to say. Is like we talked about sports. Sports is one of our passions. We obviously the thing we want to do is something we're passionate about, but we also had a goal in mind, and that's to bring value to other people. We felt that we had these takes and these opinions about the sports, kind of all kinds of sports that we felt maybe could inform others, because the games, the individual leagues are changing things. We wanted to kind of shed light on that a little bit, as well as, so just certain topics in sports where we could provide value and provide a solution. We didn't feel like we were bringing that value. There was a few episodes where I felt like we had it and we were informing and we had a good solution. We had good, just the whole thing was from, top to bottom was good. But there were a lot of episodes where it was kind of like, did we do what we set out to do? And you were beginning to say it there before I cut you off, and I'm sorry. We're not journalists. We're not professional athletes. We're not coaches. We're not analysts. We're just fans, and that's limiting.
Absolutely. That was something I would look for at the end of episodes and go, at the end of the day, we're just a couple guys who like sports. We haven't done it at a high level. We haven't been around it. So yeah, at the end of the day, it could be asinine what we're saying, and yeah, like you were saying, like were we providing what we wanting to.
Yeah, we're just not part of
Not
the community that we're talking about in terms of influence, in terms of, everything that we were doing. It just didn't have the air of legitimacy. That's an aside, because really we wanted to stray away. Stay away. We wanted to keep clear for sure of just reporting news when it came to sports, because you guys already get enough of that. You get that from ESPN, you get that from Bleacher Report, wherever you get your sports news. You're already getting all of that shit. And usually with that comes the drama, which is what we definitely didn't want to talk about. I don't want to sit there and talk about, how Jimmy Butler's going to get suspended again because he, of his trade disputes with the Heat. I don't give a shit about that. I'm going to be honest with you. And I don't think
100%.
everyone should read that article and go, okay, I acknowledge that. We don't need to spend a 24-hour news cycle on that, ESPN, but they will. These guys will. And we were trying to do we were trying to cut through the noise a little bit, but there's an inherent problem with sports in terms of us talking about it. With sports, there's tradition and firm structure involved. So messing with the game is played, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, whatever, it's going to cause friction, and these leagues are making revenue-based decisions. And they're not making sports ones. And that's, from a business perspective, duh. That's an obvious one.
You're always going to make sure you're making the money.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes.
Just some examples. Like baseball is trying to figure out a way to speed the games up because fans don't want to sit there for 5 hours every game. Basketball's, hey, even a topic we covered, which I'm happy to say we were right about, which was the 3-point epidemic.
I feel good about that one. I really do. I feel bad that it's come to fruition because, God,
yeah.
I think the last games I watched, you were talking about it back and forth. The Christmas Day games, awful, just completely awful, just
terrible,
just oh my God,
fucking terrible. And I just, as I adjust my camera and mic here, We got that one right. We were talking about how the epidemic of the threes and, what the NBA needs to do. They're actually launching their own investigation now to cover everything, because it really is the truth. That game is changing. Everyone goes with stats. They're looking at the three ball as their way to statistically score more. And with that game, people like us that really love basketball and have really loved watching it, and suddenly we're not watching it anymore. And but with that, like I said, you can't. We as Dive Bar Sportscast, previously, we couldn't. The solutions we were coming up with were starting to become like a broken record. It was starting to be, the league's got to change this. The league's got to change this, and we know that's not happening because, again, we value the heart and soul of the sports that we talk about, which means that we don't want to see changes to the structure of the game unless it protects players in some way. But we don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we don't want to see the game get changed a lot, and because of that, it's limiting. And so, like I said, we didn't want to be reporting the news. We don't want to be part of that noise, and so we've decided to switch away, and really kind of start ourselves anew. And one area where everything I just mentioned that was limiting about sports, it opens up with gaming. Mm-hmm. We are switching to talking all things gaming. I truly mean all things. And everything everything I said that was a limit with sports, so where we felt like we couldn't really broach the subject because we wanted to bring value to you and we didn't think that was valuable. With gaming, all of that's turned on its head. So tradition in gaming can be effectively challenged. We can have that conversation. Revenue-based decisions are more appropriate and can be manipulated to serve the gaming community.
Correct.
And here's a big one, we are actually gamers.
Yes. I remember when you and I had this, this epiphany, I guess, when we were like, well, we want to keep doing this because you and I just have fun doing it, but so what are we going to do? And we said, well, why don't we do games? And I was like, one of my earliest memories is us playing Jedi Power Battles on your PlayStation, like years ago. I mean, like 21-ish years ago at this point. I can't remember exactly when. The game
I
came
think
out.
that game came out shortly after the movie, The Phantom Menace. So that was probably 2000, 2001. I think was probably that era, that realm, when we were playing it. But yeah, like. We talk about gaming just the same passion, if not more, than we talk about sports, and it's everything. So, I think that because we're actually gamers, we are part of the gaming community, we have a voice that matters suddenly, whereas with sports, again, we're only fans. We can't take we can't effectively influence. No one in the sports community is going to listen to what we're saying and go, that's valid.
Absolutely. We were the smallest fish in the biggest pond.
Exactly.
And there was no way, I mean, whatever. Pat McAfee has his takes. He's, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But at least he's been there. He was a professional athlete at some point.
And
he at least has earned the right to talk about that.
That's kind of the thing. Is like Pat McAfee, the Pat McAfee show, as irreverent as it is now, or I mean, I guess as it always has been, they kind of do what we were trying to do is bring a more human element to sports, but they're taking the more journalism route because they're one of the main programs on ESPN. So it is what it is. But and with gaming, we can report the news and not feel like we're just adding to the chaos and the noise, because there are things that legitimately people do need to know. We need to get get this information out there. We feel that we can be one, not just in a sea of voices, but again, more legitimate. Just that whole feel, everything gets a little bit more legitimate from the standpoint of like we're actually doing this. We
are playing the games that we're talking about. We know about the games we know about the companies. There are more realistic things that will make sense for us to talk about, not just feel like, oh well, you're just kind of talking out your ass because you're not there, you haven't done it,
And to that end, what are we going to talk about? I mean, like, first of all, hey, look, like you said, are we going to talk about gaming companies and the structure and their motives, their decisions? Yes, we are. Are we going to talk about different styles of games and individual games maybe, and why maybe some have succeeded and some have fallen? Yes, we are. We are going to talk about that. Are we going to talk about just everything, the feel of games, the philosophy of it? Yes, we're going to talk about it. Literally everything. Under the conceivable, just umbrella of conceivability, we are going to talk about it because we have gaming just opens it up for us, and it's a community that can be changed, or rather, games can be changed very quickly. Franchises can be changed because companies are able to make decisions. Again, there's no structure, there's no basic structure like it is with a certain sport. I can sit here and talk about the NFL all day, but it won't matter what I say, and it won't matter what because the NFL is going to make their decisions based on what's making them the most money. Let's give a quick example to that. Why does every rule update seem to favor the offense rather than the defense? Well, because they have stats. They're not stupid. They look at their ratings and they know that defensive battles don't get the ratings. But shootouts and high-scoring offensive games, they get a lot of ratings. So they make a lot of these plays. Sure, some of them are to protect players, and that's legitimate. But for the most part, they're making a decision that favors the offense because they know that those are the games that get the best ratings, and the NFL is fighting for market share. So
always, yeah.
when you have those kind of situations but they're also in a situation where they're going, oh, that's not why we're doing it. Oh, it couldn't be us. That's not why we're doing it. Meanwhile, when we talk about gaming and gaming companies, they're making decisions. They're being, for the most part, they're being honest. Yeah, we're doing this to sell more units. We're improving this because we want more players. Like, it's a lot more of a transparent world. And I think that with that, we can be, honestly, a little bit more fucking interesting. Because I'm listening to some of these episodes, man. And, we listen to everything that we record because we gotta, just for the sake of getting things accurate and making sure that, the editing is fine. what little editing there is. But man, some of these episodes, like I really like the one we did with Brandon with the baseball and you know the steroids and baseball one. That was interesting. We did the three and D with NBA, but there was a lot of episodes where I sat there like, man, did we really do anything with this?
Yeah,
or were we just talking?
It did get tough towards the end. You know, I mean, every so often it was just kind of like, well, we can't do football, basketball, baseball every episode. We have to try and do something different.
Yeah,
you know, not just to not keep this like, oh, well, they're just the football guys, you know. Because we wanted to be all sports, and maybe us trying to be broad instead of bringing it in hurt. But at the same time, that's not who we are. We like to talk about sports. We just like to talk about everything. It's part of what has kept our friendship, you know, as close as it has over the years, especially now living on literally the opposite coast. This is part of what has always made sure that we stayed in contact. So,
yep.
You know.
And gaming is a huge community and industry. And I think that as it grows, there's going to be a lot more focus on it and a lot more focus on the individual aspects of it. And I feel that there's a lot of information that people just don't understand. And this comes back to us providing value. So that's what we're going to do. Now let's address some of the more visual details. We have a new name. We are no longer Dive Bar Sportscast. We are the Tryhards. And you can see with our, our new little logo there and everything. We've got the killer whale. So I'm gonna take this first one as to why we named ourselves the Tryhards. This was actually just kind of a tongue in cheek, because the definition of a tryhard is essentially it's a person usually of little talent who tries really, really hard, to succeed, to gain fame or popularity. It's a little irony in the sense that, like, we're not doing this to get, like, famous. We're doing this because we like gaming. We want to provide value to the community in any small way that we can. But you're listening to a couple of career silvers here. Pretty much every game that we've ever played, we're usually in the competitive space. Connor and I are in the silver range, maybe low gold if we're lucky. Yeah. I think the highest I've ever in any game that I've gotten in the competitive scene, and which is sad for me to admit, is Clan Wars on the mobile game.
Oh, man.
Quite literally. I mean, I'm high gold on that, and that is the highest I've ever got. Like League of Legends, silver. Any Valorant or any game that requires any kind of rank, whatever the silver equivalent is, that's usually where I'm at. That's usually where Connor's at. So we fit with just most of the gaming community there. And we're also, that being said, we're also what I consider to be true gamers, and we're going to get into what that means. But I think that there's a subsection of gamers in this community that are the true version, and like I said, we'll talk about it. But so Connor, why did we choose an orca?
I mean, it's part of it. It's part of our history together as friends, and between all of our friends that we've either made through gaming or grew up with. We have just we've always called ourselves the Killer Whales. It's a shout out to Keith Ape's song, Ijima, from obviously way back in the day, and we just stuck with it. We rolled with it. That's just always what we called ourselves. It's been our Clash team names in League of Legends. It's been just kind of it was our clan name in Apex Legends. It's kind of just how we've always identified ourselves. So I think that's a huge part of why we want to have that as our logo, is to be kind of that main callback to why we're going to do this, why it's important to us, and that we're actually not just some posers or whatever trying to get into a sphere that we actually don't talk about.
Yep, that look, everyone's got their groups, and I think that having particularly our friends, we all grew up gaming, and I feel like that's not exactly the most unique thing anymore, especially for millennials. But you mentioned it, that we it's how we stay in contact. It's how we all, even the people that are you guys in California that are still close together. Mm-hmm. It's easier to just jump on Discord into the into the chat and start playing whatever. And even when we're not playing the same game, it's just nice to, it's like it's part of the community, and there's a good feel to it. And so we wanted to pay homage to our gaming community, our miniature community that we have, the killer whales. So an orca is our mascot. We don't know. He looks like he's got a name. I don't know. The first name that came up was Monty for me. I don't know if it's going to be Monty. Could be.
We'll
could be a
workshop
different name.
that.
Yeah, we'll workshop that one. For this episode, it's Monty the killer whale. But so we have changed. This is what we're doing from now on. And you guys have a lot coming at you. Truly, I know that I've been irreverent and said, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we're going to release a bunch of new episodes back when we were doing sports." But as we already explained, there's a reason that we really couldn't. I mean, we had a lot of ideas, and we started killing our own ideas when we were doing brainstorming sessions because we're like, "This is just not going to be fun to talk about. This is not going to work."
I mean, even worse, I think there were a few times during episodes where we would kind of hit a point where we're just like, oh, fuck. I think we're just...
Yep.
We've run out of what we really want to say, but we still feel like we need to do something, and then we just lose kind of all track. And, there were times where I sat at the end of episodes and were just like, all right, we're done, and I'd sit there and just be like, I don't think this was good, but whatever, I guess,
Yeah. And, again, we're not... We have no delusion here. We have no illusions of grandeur. Like we're not doing this just to make fucking money or whatever. We don't have jobs. We have lives. It's not. We don't. It's hard to convey at this point, but we really do see that we're trying to fill a need here with the out in the gaming community, which at times has been fractured. We're kind of toxic all together as one giant group. So we're thinking maybe, just maybe, if we can get anyone listening to kind of get the insider info on what all of this shit, all this chaos really means and who we are and, why people play games in the first place and why is it some people are so fucking crazy at games and some people aren't, and what the games themselves bring out in us. Hey, anything, like I said, we'll talk about anything. So now this is starting hot and heavy. This is like starting right away. There's not going to be any kind of transition. We are the tryhards from here on out, and we've got some exciting topics to come at you. We are going to talk about, the next episode, we're going to talk about more about us in terms of our gaming foundations. And then from then on, we're going to get, into some pretty widespread shit.
Broad,
the industry
niche.
As a whole.
Yeah.
The industry as a whole. Talking about individual games like the MOBAs and the Battle Royales and the arena games. We're going to be talking about MMOs. We're going to be talking about nostalgia factor when it comes to gaming. Why do these fucking game companies make the decisions that they do, even when it seems like they're making every wrong decision, and they look in our faces and make that wrong decision? Why do they do it? What's the motivation? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the pros. Talk about how does professional gaming work into this culture, and is it growing or fading? We're going to be talking about everything. So just gear up, and we hope that we can be a little bit more interesting for you and be a little bit more informative on something we're very passionate about. Connor, final thoughts?
Just thanks for sticking it out, guys. I hope that some of you come along with us. I know that gaming is, not what it was even 10 years ago compared to now. There's kind of something for everybody, just like there is for sports. So if you want to keep coming along with us, I hope you do. If not, thank you for your support. But yeah, it's going to give us a lot more creativity. I mean, when we were brainstorming a couple weeks ago, there was, there's ideas for different kinds of media and different kinds of things that we can do that we would never have been able to do for sports. So personally, for me, I'm assuming it's the same for Tyler. It just allows us to feel more creative and kind of just be more excited for something for these recording sessions instead of like, well, I guess let's go record and whatever. So that's That's my spiel.
Yeah, and that's what we got for you. So again, we hope you'll join us for this ride. It'll be interesting to start, but I think that we're going to be a lot more dialed in with these kind of topics. So
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, forgive the bumpy road, but I think it'll lead to something good. So we thank you so much, and we are the Tryhards, and we will see you next episode.